How's everybody doing? This is your main man, Theo Wilson with African Diaspora News. And I don't know how many boxing fans that we have in the audience, but we got to talk about Terrence Bud Crawford. We got to, because he is now the first three-division undisputed champion in the four-belt era who is male. And Black history just unfolded. But what's so interesting is that this affected people in a real powerful way, and not just Black folks. I want you to listen to what this gentleman says about the warrior culture of Black Americans and the fighters and the greatness that we produce. Check this out.
One thing I want to point out about Terrence Crawford, there's these archetypes in boxing. The great Mexican fighter. Right now, the Eastern European fighter has exploded in the last 10 to 15 years, and their school of boxing and the culture that comes along with it, their mentality, their approach and temperament to the sport. We know the Mexican temperament and approach and a lot of the style to the sport, and so on and so forth, all these different cultures. This was yet another reminder that when it comes to boxing, that little Black kid from the ghetto is quite a formidable force till this day at this highest level. And that archetype still remains king, still has produced the greatest amount of fighters in the world. And I am proud to acknowledge that as a fellow American. May not be a Black American, but I'm American. These people are my countrymen. And the United States has the most world champions in the history of boxing. Mexico's at number 2. So you saw the top 2 historic cultures, at it in the ring, and they're going to do it again and again and again. This ain't, this is a great rivalry. I want to acknowledge that because I don't know, some people for some reason, I don't know, I get uncomfortable about it. They don't acknowledge it. We're quicker to acknowledge the Japanese honor and culture, the Mexican warrior, the stoicism and skill of the Eastern European. Tip of the hat to the Black American fighter, which has in fact produced the greatest fighters of all time. If you made a Mount Rushmore, they might all be Black American. If it's Ali, Robinson, Henry Armstrong, Joe Louis, Floyd Mayweather, Terrence Crawford, Roy Jones. Salute.
Something about the way he put that made me frame the culture that produces fighters in a historic way that I had never actually thought about before. Because I don't know about you, but throwing hands, that was an asset in my neighborhood. This is something that was looked upon with pride, right? My specific neighborhood in Denver was known as a neighborhood that produced the fighters. My father was a fighter, a boxer out of Brooklyn, boxed his way through Vietnam. And learning how to protect yourself is something that is necessary based on the experience that we have just being Black in America. But the way that we developed the art of throwing hands has created so many legends that most people's Mount Rushmore will be predominantly Black American, and no people's Mount Rushmore when it comes to the greatest boxers will have no Black Americans on it. And frankly, I think we need to do a better job at venerating the culture of warriorship that comes from us, that it does deserve to be mentioned with the warrior cultures of the samurai, that it does deserve to be mentioned with the warrior cultures that produce the Eastern Bloc fighters and that brawler Mexican style, because it is historically significant that the conditions that created these fighters have completed the story of America in a way that you just can't tell the story of America without. Whether you're talking about Joe Louis and defeating Max Schmeling during World War II and destroying the idea of Aryan supremacy, whether you're talking about Muhammad Ali and what he did for the pride of Black folks during the Civil Rights era, or even if you look at the man who Muhammad Ali himself looked up to the most, the first Black heavyweight champion of the world, Jack Johnson. Now imagine Jack Johnson's not only physical, but psychological resilience, because this man's story is incredible. He beat these white challengers, not only being called the N-word by everybody in the crowd, not only with his life being threatened every single time he stepped into the ring, but the fact that Jack Johnson had to win these fights, knowing that Black cities would be burned, that Black folks would be lynched, and the fact that Black folks knew that it was still necessary for Jack Johnson to win those fights. That's a warriorship that can be forged only under the hottest conditions. And Terrence Bud Crawford proudly carries that mantle forward. And even when you look at mixed martial arts, when you look at their Mount Rushmores of who are the greatest fighters of all time, right? You got fighters from the diaspora, of course. Anderson Silva from Brazil, right? You got Israel Adesanya. You got Kamaru Usman, right? You got Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, right? But even among the foundational lineages, the very best who have ever done it come from our folks who are foundational. So you got Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, you got Daniel Cormier, and you got the man who was considered the Muhammad Ali of MMA, the greatest mixed martial arts fighter of all time, the baddest man on the planet himself, Johnny Bones Jones. So our good brother Terrence Bud Crawford is in great company. But why is this also historically significant for this time period? And in my opinion, when you see a rise in violence that happens to black folks just by walking down the street because folks want to go Karen or Ken on us, right? A fighter, a champion, similarly to the time of Muhammad Ali, makes the people hold their heads higher, right? I'm not saying that Bud Crawford is going to occupy the space culturally that Muhammad Ali occupies, but there is something about holding your head up higher, knowing that you come from a lineage of folks who aren't just great when it comes to their contributions to society, but they're also great when it comes to their warriorship, and that's in you, that's a part of you. It makes you more apropos to stand on business when it comes to protecting yourself, your people, your family, and the innocent, because you know that that's in you, and you have a symbol representing that greatness in you that is put up before the world, so that we all know, Bud Crawford, me, I'm Bud Crawford, I'm Muhammad Ali, I'm Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Robinson, and any other of these great fighters that have come from our folks in a time when we have been visibly, violently oppressed. A warrior is the thing that has the people keep their head up. Bud Crawford is in that lineage. So here's a question: what must be done to protect and preserve this warrior culture that exists in foundational black Americans? And I think that one of the most important things we can do is put down the gunplay. When my dad was growing up, if he encountered violence in the streets, the thing to solve that violence was to learn how to protect yourself with your hands. Now, brothers, it's turned into guns. And I do wonder how many of us who could have been great fighters on the levels that of the warriors that I mentioned before lost their lives to thugging, to gang violence, to the dope game. We had a program in my city called Guns Down, Gloves Up, where we literally, the brothers who had the gym opened up the gym for you to run the fade, and that was that. And if you won or lost, you shook hands and took care of your manly business as adults and didn't take that to any collateral damage, and you lived to tell the tale. And I think that if we wrangle that, get that under control, and see these young men with warrior energy as assets to the community and direct them to learn how to protect themselves and even find a career in the martial arts, boxing, MMA, you name it, then we can secure more champions for the next generation, just in case we need somebody to look up to keep our own heads up. My name is Theo Wilson for African Diaspora News. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tell me what you think in the comments. Like, follow, share this message out, and follow my own personal YouTube channel at Theo Cyrus Rising on YouTube. And I'll see y'all later.